going on, everyone? Welcome back to Vegan Scratch Kitchen. Today we're going to be making some cold weather comfort food, and on today's episode we have for you a butternut squash and sweet potato bisque. So what you're going to want to do is take the butternut squash, get it on your cutting board, and you're going to want to find a nice good spot where it is nice and stable. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this knife, we're going to cut straight down into the middle and be very careful with this. So once the knife is down in it, what we're going to want to do is grab right here, get a hold of it, and bring the knife down just like this. Then take it this way and do the same thing. Kind of bring the knife down. And there you have it. Beautiful butternut squash right there. So next what we're going to do is just take out all the seeds on this part right here. Your end product should look something like this. So now grab your sweet potato, place it down on the cutting board, and now what we're going to do with this is we're simply going to chop down the middle. Beautiful sweet potato right here. At this point in the process, go ahead and get your oven preheating to 375. So now we're going to put together all of the spices that are going to go on the butternut squash and the sweet potatoes before we throw them in the oven. So we're going to start off by grabbing some garlic, get a couple cloves. So I'm going to take 4 big cloves. I'm going to take each of the cloves and smash down on them with the side of my knife to release it from the shell. Now slice the ends off of your garlic. Now we're going to take them and just slice them thinly. Now that we have all the garlic sliced up, we're going to go ahead and chop it into fine pieces. So now we're going to season the butternut squash and the sweet potatoes. So what I have here to season it with is some grapeseed oil, and then I've got some salt and pepper, some vegan sugar here, and the secret ingredient, some ground chili powder. So we'll start off with our butternut squash here. Next up, grab your minced garlic and just go ahead and sprinkle it over the butternut squash. And obviously reserve some because we're gonna do the same thing for the sweet potatoes. Next thing you'll do is grab your salt, give it a generous amount. Next, grab your black pepper. I like to season a lot because I think that if you season it really well, it really brings out the flavor in all the veggies. And we're cooking with a lot of them today, so I think it's important to season well. Grab some of our vegan sugar here. And last but certainly not least, the ground chili. Drizzle it over. Go ahead and rub all of the ingredients in. It kind of incorporates them. Take your butternut squash and set it aside. Now we're going to repeat the same process for the sweet potatoes, oil, garlic, salt, pepper, vegan sugar, and the chili powder. Now we're going to take both the sweet potato and the butternut squash and we're going to roast them in the oven at 375 for 1 hour. So while the butternut squash and the sweet potatoes are roasting, we're going to go ahead and prepare all of the vegetables that we're going to cook in a sauce pot that are eventually going to come together with the butternut squash and the sweet potato in a blender to make the bisque. So we're going to start off by dicing 2 medium yellow onions. Next thing we're going to do is peel the carrots. Now top and bottom the carrots. Now slice them in half. Now find a spot where the carrot is most stable on the cutting board and slice right in half. And now thinly slice. Now take your 3 celery stalks, slice the ends off and the tops. Same thing with the carrots, cut them in half. And now cut each of the halves into half. Now same thing here, thinly slice the celery. And now last but certainly not least, the garlic. So you're going to want to get about 6 to 8 cloves. That sounds like a lot, but I like a lot of garlic. And now go ahead and just thinly slice these. We don't have to mince it up because eventually all of these ingredients are going to go into a blender. I'd like to take a moment to shout out to Nathan Gass for allowing me to use his music on my video today. I connected with him on Instagram the other week. Listened to some of his tunes. He's an incredible musician, very talented. He's got multiple projects ongoing and he's just constantly cranking out music. So definitely go check him out. He's doing some cool stuff. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna cook down all of our prepared vegetables in a sauce pot. and we're gonna add some spices to them. Of course, salt and pepper. We're also gonna add a little bit of allspice and ground clove. That's gonna give it a nice warm spice that's reminiscent of the fall and winter time. And then we're also gonna add some more ground chili because why not? Now the key here with making this dish is we're gonna build a roux in the pan first. That's gonna involve equal parts of oil and flour, and I'll show you guys how to do that. Once the roux is prepared, we'll put in the remaining ingredients, cook them down for a little bit, and then add some vegetable stock. I'll go through all of this along the way. Now those look delicious. So we're gonna let these cool down for about 45 minutes to an hour. At that point, we'll scoop out as much as we can from each of them and put them into a blender with the rest of the ingredients in the sauce pot to blend together into the bisque. All right. Look at those buttes right there. That looks good. So now we'll grab a bowl and get to scooping these out. So they're pretty oily, so take your time. These can still be pretty tough, so just take your time with it. Now we'll go ahead and do the sweet potatoes. Pretty good amount, very hefty. All right, we're ready to bring it all together. We've got everything that we cooked in the sauce pot with the roux, including the vegetables, the spices, and the vegetable stock. We've got the roasted butternut squash and sweet potato. And along with those, we're gonna add a little bit of apple cider vinegar, a little bit of maple syrup, and of course, some more ground chili powder. So I'm gonna be using a Vitamix blender. Vitamix is the gold standard for blenders in my opinion. Not necessarily the cheapest blender on the market, but if you're really looking to have a good blender that lasts you a long time, that you can make a variety of dishes with, this is for you. With other blenders, you'll be able to bring it all together. It may not be as smooth or creamy. If you are using a lower grade blender, what I would recommend is doing this in multiple batches. We're gonna do 2 rounds of blending with the Vitamix. So for a lower grade blender, I'd probably recommend doing 3 to 4. That way, you're not overloading the blender. This blender is at least 1500 watts. Blenders that are lower than 1000, you're probably gonna wanna do more than 2 rounds. So the first thing that we're gonna do is put in some of the liquid. Hold back about half of it. It'll get a little messy, that's okay. Now take some of your sweet potato and squash, place it in there. Do about half, I would say. Now take some of your maple syrup, add just a little bit, not too much. Now for the apple cider vinegar, this is gonna give it just a little bit of tang. You don't wanna add too much apple cider vinegar, then it's not gonna taste good. But without the apple cider vinegar, it'll just taste sweet and salty, which is good, but this really rounds the flavor out, I think. So add just a little bit of this, like that much. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to. Some more of the ground chili. Time to blend it together. Look at the color on that. That right there is a fall time color. That equals fall. Now grab a separate glass bowl and pour in. Oh yes. Just get a good look at it. How about it? Okay, now go ahead and do round 2 of blending. all finished. We've got our delicious butternut squash, sweet potato bisque right here. We've got our roasted kale right here. All right, now we'll top with some of our kale. And here it is. Butternut squash, sweet potato bisque, great cold weather comfort food, really delicious, so much flavor. I love it. Thanks again for checking out my recipes. Comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Very good, and I'll see you next time.